In February of 1989, representatives of the biggest wrestling company in America stood before the New Jersey State Senate and testified that wrestling was staged. Fans had whispered it for a century. Now it was official and completely voluntary. Here is the strange part. Confessing the secret didn't kill the business. It set the business free. This is the story of a man who tore down a decades-old system and why telling on his own industry was his smartest move. Along the way, a contract that could vanish with one missed payment, an attendance record that may be a lie, and a $9 billion price tag. To understand what he destroyed, you first need to see the invisible map. For most of the 20th century, American wrestling was carved into territories, roughly 24 regional promotions, each with its own stars, its own television show, and its own protected turf. The National Wrestling Alliance, formed in 1948, held the map together. Promoters shared one traveling champion and stayed out of each other's cities. It ran like a cartel, held together by a code, and the code had a name: kayfabe. Hold on to that word, because this story ends with it. Kayfabe meant the show never admitted being a show. Wrestlers stayed in character in public. On-screen enemies couldn't share a car. One territory covered the Northeast, home arena Madison Square Garden. Its boss was a respected promoter named Vincent James McMahon. His champion, Bruno Sammartino, held the title for 2,803 days, nearly 8 years. The promoter had a son he barely knew. Vince Kennedy McMahon grew up in a North Carolina trailer park and met his father at age 12. The boy fell hard for the business, and by 1971 he was the voice of his father's broadcast. In 1982, the son offered to buy the company. The terms were brutal. Roughly $1 million in installments, and if he missed a single payment, everything reverted to his father and his partners. He made every payment. Years later, he admitted, "Had my father known what I was going to do, he never would have sold his stock to me." What he was going to do was break every rule on the map at once. In 1983, McMahon pulled out of the National Wrestling Alliance and began selling his show to stations deep inside rival territories, sometimes on slots he bought out from under their owners. Next, he came for their stars. In December of 1983, he signed Hulk Hogan away from Vern Gagne's American Wrestling Association. He kept going. Jesse Ventura, Bobby Heenan, Gene Okerlund. Within months, the Heart of Gang's on-air lineup was working for McMahon. On January 23, 1984, Hogan won the championship at Madison Square Garden, and Hulkamania went national overnight. That July, McMahon bought Georgia Championship Wrestling out from under its own partners, taking its Saturday slot on Ted Turner's Superstation. Fans still call it Black Saturday. Georgia's audience revolted, flooding the network with furious letters. By most accounts, Turner never forgave it. Remember that grudge. It comes back in 10 years. One by one, the territories starved. Vern Gagne put it plainly. There used to be 26 booking offices in this country. Now there are only 2. Conquering the map was the easy part. He now needed a show big enough to fill it, and by his own telling, he bet the company to build one. His unlikely weapon was pop music. Cyndi Lauper joined the storylines, MTV aired the matches live in prime time, and the press called it the Rock and Wrestling Connection. All of it pointed at one night, the first WrestleMania. March 31st, 1985, at Madison Square Garden. Mr. T wrestled in the main event. Muhammad Ali stood guard at ringside. Liberace danced with the Rockettes. McMahon later said a flop would have finished him. Instead, an estimated million-plus fans packed closed-circuit theaters across America. 2 years later, he booked a domed stadium outside Detroit and announced the largest crowd in wrestling history. 93,173 people. That number is still disputed. Reporter Dave Meltzer put the real count closer to 78,000. Either way, the image became immortal. Hogan slammed the enormous Andre the Giant, and wrestling owned American pop culture. which raised an awkward question. Why was a scripted show still regulated and taxed like a real sport? So, in 1989, his company made the confession you heard at the start. Wrestling, its representatives told New Jersey, was entertainment, staged for spectators, no athletic contest at all. State by state, over the following years, the commissions gave up their claim, and the taxes fell away. McMahon branded the category with a name that stuck: sports entertainment. Kayfabe, wrestling's 100-year vow of silence, was now a legal filing that made him untouchable in one courtroom. 5 years later, a different courtroom nearly took everything. In 1993, federal prosecutors indicted McMahon for conspiring to supply steroids to his wrestlers. Conviction could have ended his control of the company. Hulk Hogan testified under immunity, admitted using steroids, but said McMahon never ordered him to. In July of 1994, the jury acquitted. McMahon walked out of court and into a war. A year later, Ted Turner launched WCW Monday Nitro head-to-head against his flagship show. The rivalry born on Black Saturday now had a media empire's checkbook, and Nitro won the ratings for 83 straight weeks. Losing forced a reinvention. In Montreal in November of 1997, McMahon ordered the bell rung early on his own champion, Bret Hart. A double-cross fans watched live. Instead of apologizing, he leaned in, becoming Mr. McMahon, television's most hateable boss. His feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin turned the war around. The owner was now the main character. By 2001, WCW collapsed, and McMahon bought his rival's name and tape library for a few $1 million. The empire compounded. A stock market listing in 1999, a new name WWE in 2002, a streaming network in 2014, 5 years before Disney. In 2023, a merger valued the company his father sold for $1 million at more than $9 billion, and then it all came apart in a single week. The cracks showed earlier. In 2022, the Wall Street Journal reported McMahon had paid millions in secret settlements to women who accused him of misconduct. He denied wrongdoing, retired, then forced his way back within 6 months. On January 23, 2024, Netflix agreed to pay $5 billion for his flagship show. 2 days later, a former employee named Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit accusing McMahon of sexual assault and trafficking. He denies all of the allegations. The day after that, McMahon resigned. His stock sales had already begun, and over the next 2 years he unloaded most of his stake, more than $2 billion in all. The company kept growing without him. Now, about that word, kayfabe outlived the territories, outlived the secret, and in 2023 it entered the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Writers use it now for politics, reality television, and half of what scrolls past you at night. A performance everyone knows is a performance, running anyway. Because McMahon's deepest change was never a TV deal. He proved an audience will love a show more, not less, once you admit it's a show. Every reality feud, every staged celebrity beef, every wink at the camera runs on that New Jersey confession. So, my question for you, what is the best example of kayfabe outside wrestling? Tell me in the comments.